Hi, it's Erin, and I am getting ready to read chapter 2, Matthew chapter 2, from the New King James Version of the Bible. You can read along with your own version, or you can get onto Bible Gateway or Bible Hub and read along with New King James Version. New International Version is the other version I really like to use, but I am using New King James right now. Again, this is Matthew chapter 2. I hope you'll follow along with me. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, 'But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the young child, and when you have found him, bring back word to me, so that I may come and worship him also." When they heard the king, they departed. And behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then, being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country another way. Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him." When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was angry, exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, "A voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because they are no more." Sorry. Now when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, "Arise and take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the young child's life are dead." Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And being warned by God in a dream, he turned aside into the region of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, "He shall be called a Nazarene." Sorry for getting emotional. I just find when I'm reading the Bible, it's impossible not to get emotional with certain parts. And the prophecy by Jeremiah about Rachel weeping for her children always gets to me. So that was chapter 2. Again, I apologize if I misspoke or I mispronounced the name. I've read the Bible to myself a million times, but I've never read it aloud. So, but once again, we see in chapter 2 how Matthew, because this gospel was written speaking to the Jews, right? So he's trying to connect the Messiah to the Jews because he wants the Jews for Christ. That's what he wants. It was still, the premise of their religion is Messiah, the coming of Messiah, and then he's like trying to reach them. And so Matthew often uses prophecy. So he goes back to the Old Testament to connect Jesus and his story to their lineage, to their heritage, to their history, and to their culture. And you see that in Bethlehem of Judea. Thus it is written by the prophet, Jeremiah, Isaiah, right? Which we'll see in chapter 3. So it's one of those things where it's good to kind of keep that in mind as you read this with the reference to prophecy. The other thing I love about chapter 2 is the Magi. From almost the very beginning, we have Gentiles that acknowledge Jesus Christ as the Lord, as their king, right? So you had 3 kings from the east who followed a star, who had been studying the skies and noticed this star, and somehow were told by God to go, and they followed that guidance. They followed that path before. Jesus he was no more than a toddler. He was no more than a baby. And they followed 3 Gentiles. So, arguably, Jesus Christ was the answer for everyone from the very beginning, right? He was never just the Jewish Messiah. The Gentiles also, acknowledged his kingship. And I just find that incredible. And they offered their most precious items, right? And so I feel that is a sign for us that we need to give over to Jesus our most precious things, our hearts, our minds, our souls. We don't have frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Some of us do, but I think that when you think in terms of fear, right? Herod murdered all of those babies, all of those little boys. He took out an entire generation because he was afraid, and he was selfish, and he was, full of deceit, and he was a liar. And I think that, it's important that, Jesus is a threat to our flesh, right? Everything, heaven is a threat to our flesh. God is a threat. So when we choose our flesh over Christ, we are choosing hell. We are choosing to be apart from him. I don't know. I just think that it's, it's amazing. And it's interesting because it wasn't just Herod that was disturbed by this. It was all Jerusalem. Think about it, what he said. He said, he was troubled and all Jerusalem with him, and he gathered all the chiefs and scribes. And it's like, what were they thinking? And their fear drove them to this incredible evil. So, I don't know. I also think, you have the idea of listening to God when we are in contact with Jesus, when we read his word, when we pray every day. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I have to pray all day, because it keeps me so focused on what's the important thing. It helps me keep my actions focused. And so when that happens, we are guided. And Joseph was specifically guided, right? So were the wise men. They were guided by the Lord. And again, you have this whole Jewish guidance, Gentile guidance. All they were was so in tune with their God, with God of all creation, that they were inspired through their dreams. God came to them. He sent. And we need to listen to that. But we need to give ourselves over to it first. Anyway, that is Matthew chapter 2. I will see you tomorrow for Matthew chapter 3. And again, if they're not super, chapter 3 is much short, so it'll be just one video. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I pray that you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and that the words of God have really inspired you and brought joy to your heart, but also, there's always something to learn from reading the Bible, and specifically the Gospels. And so I'm really happy to be doing this. Take care.